Here we go, starting a new Parent Pivot podcast. And my wife says, just before it counts down, I need lotion on my face. Thank you, love. Welcome to the Parent Pivot podcast. I am one of your hosts, Steve Cummings, who doesn't have lotion on his face.
Julia Cummings.
So you're probably wondering, why are we not on the same screen? You see me on one side and Julia on the other. Well, it's my fault. I travel for work, and for whatever reason, I am so on it when it comes to travel. I know I allow enough margin in case there's traffic on the freeway at security, you name it, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden I got up this morning going, I got plenty of time to get to the airport. Then it flashes, hey, your flight leaves in like 3 hours. And I went, oh no, I'm now one of those guys that I don't want to be. And so I'm flying around packing, and we were supposed to record very leisurely today. So I'm now in Memphis in my hotel room. My love is at the normal spot where she's supposed to be, and we're welcoming you here to the Parent Pivot podcast. So anyway, Julia Lynn, what are we talking about today?
Well, we are talking about what happens sometimes when families gather together. Everyone's grown, all the kids are grown. And so a lot of times we sit and we reminisce and we remember things and we laugh, and that's great. We have a lot of great family memories. The part that we want to talk about that is more of a caution is sometimes when we do this, we end up making fun of one person. Or everybody. I mean, we could end up making fun of everybody at any given time.
Right.
But the problem becomes sometimes what that does is it puts somebody in a box and they can't break out of that box. And, the fact that they wet their pants when they were 5 years old or whatever, and they tell the same story over and over again, it may be funny, but it may not be to that person. They may laugh along. But I'm sorry, my granddaughter is hitting the glass. But it also may be hurtful if that person's not in a good place or they're just not in the mood for laughter like that. So that's something that we've had to learn, actually.
Right. And I can be on both ends of that myself. I mean, all of a sudden, if this conversation goes, you're having a good time. And again, we've talked about this in the podcast too. And by the way, if our sound sounds different, it's because we're not using our mic, we're using our laptops. So sorry for all the echo and the poor volume and stuff. But yeah, I mean, things come up and you mean well because they come in. But sometimes if you're not thinking and being aware of how could this be coming across to my adult child? Am I got them in the, they're always this always used to happen, blah, blah, blah. And maybe they're trying to grow out of that and not being perceived as that. We've talked a lot about that on our podcast. And it's like, hey, to have healthy relationships with our adult kids, we don't want to keep them in a box. We want to give them the grace to grow. And again, and then being on this side of a joke or something, sometimes I'm okay with someone making fun of me, but if I've had a day where, I don't know, maybe I'm just emotionally, tired, my cup is empty, and what would normally be something I'd laugh at, I get quiet at, that would be a good sign to pick up on something. It's like, okay, I'm not receiving it well right now. And you want to be careful because, those little things can lead to fractures. You don't know what your son or daughter's thinking about underneath the surface. It's like, there goes mom and dad again. They always have to bring this up. Every time we're together, they bring up the same story, right? Yeah. And so it can be damaging. And so this is a little, this is not a major tidbit on things, but, as we're coming to you to help you with a good pivot from the parenting to the partnering thing, just be aware. Be aware of, how it's coming across. And you can even couch it. Like if I was going to say something to one of our boys and say, hey, that reminds me of the time when whatever I said, I don't mean to, bring any harm or whatever on this subject. And they may give me permission to say, yeah, no, go ahead or whatever. I kind of want to read them on what that looks like.
Right. And part of it too is perhaps maybe, Kids get labeled when they're younger, like, oh, I've got the kid who can never wake up, or I've got the kid who is lazy, or I've got the
Right.
one that was so emotional, or I've got the one that was, the
Always getting into
attorney.
trouble.
Yeah, the attorney and always arguing, or the pot stirrer that, was causing trouble all the time, whatever it is. And there
Right.
are always funny stories about those things.
Right.
And as you become an adult, you can appreciate the fact that you were this child or whatever.
Right.
But again, like you said, it can be a hit
Back
or
then.
it can be a hit or a miss. And so really what we need to do though is follow it up. So
Right.
let's say I've got a kid that when they were young, it was like, oh my gosh, they came across lazy. Maybe we want to reword that. And you could say, I always thought you were lazy, but look at you as an adult. You're not lazy at all. That's not
Right.
what you were doing. What was it you were doing?
Right.
Because maybe that adult child has a better understanding of who they were and what was going on at that time. Or maybe it turned out that they had an attention deficit issue that was unaddressed. Or there were just so many things. I know in my own life, if I look at my family of origin, I'm the youngest of 5, as I've said many times, and I was my mom's little mother. I was the one that I was very sensitive, and I caught on when someone was upset, or I wanted to comfort, or things like that. And so my mom has some very sweet stories about me comforting her and how much
Right.
that meant to her.
Yeah.
But there are times when she says something like, yeah, Julia's always been trying to mother me, type of thing, that it doesn't hit me the same. I don't
Right.
find that a sweet story. I find that to be a dig. So
Right.
it just depends on what it is and how it's said and when it's said and whatever. So a lot of those things, you need to, number one, read the person. And
Right.
number 2, follow it up with something that is endearing, or something that is encouraging, or something that acknowledges how much they've grown, or what a tremendous adult they are
Right.
at this point.
Right. And as I'm hearing you say that, I have probably overstepped this quite a few times, but your emotional, what do they call it? Your emotional IQ, your EQ, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to have that up. You want to turn the radar up all the way. And if for some reason you shared something and you thought it was, not so bad, but you read the body language of your adult son or daughter and they're kind of quiet or just going, ha ha, or whatever, you might want to circle back afterwards privately and saying,
Yeah.
hey, I just want to come alongside you. I think so highly of you. I didn't want that to come across as somehow I was demeaning you or putting you down. And you can give that encouragement along the side, just to say that lets them know that you saw it, you owned it, and you didn't mean for it to come across as harsh.
Right.
And it's a family memory and things like that. But I mean, sometimes the siblings will start it. Hey, you remember the time when Billy did this and Susie did that? Da 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 da. Oh yeah, and then he did that. And then pretty soon they're ganging up on the one.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's okay. I'm going to read the body language of the person that is being talked about.
Right. And that's really the goal. Pay attention. Just pay attention. And also, I might say too, if you are not a person that you know that you don't have a high EQ, or that sometimes you miss things, you might go back and ask your spouse, or if your spouse approaches you and says, you know what, I don't think that was the best thing to be said. Again, you can circle back and go, did that bother you? I didn't mean to hurt you.
And sometimes you may not have to ask your spouse. They may tell you before you get there.
That's right.
And that's what they're there for. It's the blind spots, I appreciate the fact that Julia has my back and it doesn't come across as criticism. She wants me to look good in the marketplace. That's what Proverbs 31 women do. And all you moms out there and grandmas out there, that's who you are. You want your husband to look good. And most of the time we're putting our foot in our mouth thinking that we're being funny when we're not. And I don't know if that happens vice versa or not. Do you think women could be that way? I can't imagine a woman being emotionally clueless.
I
That's
think
just that's beyond my thinking.
it goes both ways. I mean, there are, in some instances, probably men who have a higher EQ than their wives. I would say it's more rare, but it goes both ways for sure.
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
got and oftentimes you can tell by who the child is coming to when they're children, who they're coming to for comfort. That might
Yeah.
tell you if you have
Right.
a high EQ or whether your child feels safe to dump on you emotionally.
Yeah.
And things like that.
Yeah, and as I'm sitting there thinking about this, because this is how we do podcasts. We like start talking, and then all of a sudden thoughts come in, and we just go back and forth. And next thing you know, we look up at the clock and go, "Whoa, we didn't think that was going to be 20 minutes long." But this is actually, it can be turned into a good thing to invest in your adult children in front of everybody. Because if a story gets told and someone else is telling it and it's funny, and maybe it is a childhood thing and it's like, whatever it is, you can say, yeah, but you know what? I haven't seen him wet his pants in a long time. Or, just you could, just put in a compliment and begin to invest in all of them in that conversation. And your family's going to pick up on that. And it's not going to be the time because sometimes when we get together, and a lot of times we go to family reunions or family get-togethers, extended family, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't really want to go because Uncle so-and-so or Aunt whatever is going to bring up da-da-da-da-da, and there's a way to just be aware of those situations and, pull your adult child aside or say something very encouraging and positive, not to demean even the person delivering the story,
Right.
but just to say, I'm so appreciative that they have a sensitive heart because, yes, they were being shaped in their early ages and this is what happened. But now I'm seeing this and this and this, and I'm so proud of who they are and things like that. You can take it and turn it in a positive direction, even when you're not the one delivering the joke or the funny story.
Yeah. And, I might say, too, what can put money in the bank for you, so to speak, is if you are regularly doing that with your kids, no matter what, your adult children, that you are, every time you have a conversation with them, you're kind of telling them that how great they are or how proud you are of them or what a tremendous adult they are or father or husband or wife or daughter, whatever. All of those things, if you're constantly doing that, then you've got money in the bank. So when those moments happen, your adult child is probably going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And hopefully they have a good relationship with their siblings where they would give their siblings the benefit of the doubt.
It's kind of knowing where they're coming from. I would, like you said, in the bank, I would also call it relationship equity,
Yes.
that you're drawing from that. Like, you know what? My dad's not the type of person who's going to belittle me and make fun of me. I know his heart. I know my mom's heart. They love me. They tell me all the time, da, 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 da. That is a funny story, And I can't, it's really all about laughing at yourself and having a sense of humor about yourself. I've done some stupid things. Haven't I, hon?
We all have done stupid things. There's no way.
I've done some things that were memorable, In fact, what was it? Oh, I know. I've done these dollar bets with my kids. And one of them dates back to, I think, when our second oldest, we were on a trip to Hope, Michigan, visiting family. And there was this park. And there was a group of about, 15 or 20 elderly women doing yoga. And Campbell was like about 50 yards away getting a drink of water. And I looked at him and he looked at me and I held up a dollar bill and I pointed. He nodded his head and I pointed at the group and he goes, okay. So he goes behind them and starts, got the dollar bill. And so, we laugh and joke about that, but that's Campbell. So then turn the tails. This just happened like last week.
Yeah.
I'm walking in the park near us and I see a group of women doing yoga. And I'm like I took a picture and sent it to the family and said, hey, anybody want to give me $1 bet to go join these ladies? And by the time I walked around and got over there, it was kind of a private thing. And I thought, no, I don't want to be rude and jump in on that. But those are funny stories. That doesn't really belittle anybody. But sometimes, our kids when they're young can be naive. They can be clueless. So they don't understand the basic of things. We have a lot.
Times there are times when they're young that they're just plain old difficult. Different stages of life, they're just difficult.
Yeah. But it's kind of
to talk about let's say we're having a conversation about what everybody is like when they're 2 years old, and there was one child that threw tantrums way more than the other ones, and we tell that same story over and over and over and over and over again.
Right.
That's the type of thing I'm talking about. Like it's
Right.
like you're choosing to zero in on this one thing about this one person, and everybody joins in and has the same story over and over
It
again.
becomes, it's like it's spoken over them, and we're saying this is the way you have always been and always will be.
Yes.
That's not what we want to do spiritually to
No.
build a legacy for our kids. We don't want to speak negative things over them. We want to celebrate who they are. We want to celebrate the change, celebrate the maturity. Can we laugh about childhood things? And sometimes you may have to look at them and saying, hey, could I ask permission to tell a story? And they may not be in the mood. It's like, you know what? Today's not the day. Maybe they've had a rough day and we don't know it.
Yeah.
You know, and everything's crashed at home with their kids.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, no worries. And move on to something else and stuff. But yeah, all good stuff. Just keep your heart open to, giving your kids the benefit of the doubt. Have your EQ ready to engage. Be listening to your spouse. If you get one of these or behind closed doors, hey, you need to go make up and things and own that. But just be careful when it comes to family joking.
Yes.
And whatever. You got anything else to add, sweetie?
No, it's really about paying attention, knowing your family members, knowing who they are, being able to pay attention and read the room. Perhaps before family gatherings, you are actually praying and asking God to give you discernment during that time with the family, so that you're aware of what each person might need, or the encouragement, or perhaps it would be really good for them to just laugh about themselves. So there are those moments. I mean, in our family, we've got the funniest stories involving Campbell. Campbell had...
We call them Campbellisms.
We call them Campbellisms.
And he laughs at them, too. It doesn't hurt his feelings.
And for Campbell, I would say 99% of the time, he loves to laugh about it, and he loves to talk about it because he likes his uniqueness. So he's a 4 on the Enneagram, and he likes being unique. So usually that's a thing. But there have been times where I think, and he would never speak up about it, but there are times I think that you and I have kind of read the room and we thought that didn't hit with him today. Like he didn't need that today.
Right.
So that's the type of thing that I'm talking about. You can use yourself as an example, that we all have those days where it's like, hey man, I just need some positive input today. I don't need jokes and need fun.
I've had too much of it. I feel like I've been kicked to the curb, and now my family or my mom and dad or extended family, they're picking on me. And that's what it goes back to what I said earlier. Some days it's like, hey, I can laugh about it because it was a funny story. And other days I just can't. Yeah. And that's why you want to read the room. You want to look at the person they're talking about, and you might have to circle back privately and say, put that arm around them and say, I love you.
And please, 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 if you are listening to me and you have the tendency to look at any of your adult kids or your spouse or anyone in your life and tell them that they are too something, too sensitive, too whatever, please don't use that verbiage. It is damaging. It is hurtful. It tells somebody that there's something wrong with them.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with them. This is who they are. I was told I was too sensitive all the time growing up. And by my 20s, I realized, no, this is my giftedness.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is who I am. I'm deep, and I feel things deeply, and I empathize with people deeply, and I care deeply. And, but I had to come to terms with that because I was told I was too sensitive for so long that I had to work through that and figure out that no. And
speaking of that little granddaughter behind you, she gets upset when we kill flies. What was the other thing she did the other day that we were doing something and she's like,
remember what it was? We're throwing marshmallows in Jamie Lynn's mouth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. her mom, our daughter, Jamie Lynn, is standing there, and Julie and I both took turns. We found a bag of marshmallows. We had a big cleanup day. And so we threw it up in the air, and she caught it in her mouth, and Florence is going,
Really upset her. She was concerned about Mama.
She has a gift of empathy like her grandma, Juju, and stuff. So anyway, I hope that makes sense to y'all and stuff. Yeah. We're grateful that we always get to come to you. Yeah, I'm sorry, sweetie, before I go into closing, anything else?
No, I'm good.
Okay. We have a book out, y'all. It is called, as I'm looking at Amazon, 13 Principles for Building Stronger Relationships with Your Adult Children by Steve and Julia Cummings. And we'd love for you to get a copy. I'll put a link like I always do down below. I have no idea if they're selling like hotcakes or not, but we did not price it in a way that's like we make money off of this. Absolutely. We just sat there and went, there's 13 principles. What about $1 per principle? So it's like $12.99. Order from Amazon. Get a copy. Get a few copies, and give them out to your neighbors and friends and whatever. We'd love to. All we want to do really is be a ministry to parents of adult children, because when we first started this almost 3 years ago, there was nothing out there, and we're like going, "Hey, we're going through this in real time. We're talking about all of our issues and things as they happen live, and this is what we have. So this is what we came up with. So buy a few copies, hand them out.
It is in journal form. It's got prompts.
Yes.
It's in journal.
Yes. There are prompts. There's some questions. There's a Bible verse for each one of those 13 principles. And anyway, get a copy. We'll put it in the show notes and things. And please instant message us on all the social media platforms at Parent Pivot Podcast. And you can also email us at parentpivotpodcast@gmail.com. We're thrilled when we get to hear from listeners, and we react. We pretty responsive pretty right away to anything that comes up and stuff. So anyway, thanks for putting up with the weak sound stuff. We don't have our microphone, our Yeti microphone. Is it Yeti? No, not Yeti. Is it a Yeti microphone?
It's Yeti, yeah.
Yeah. Julia sounds like she's in a far away, and I'm in a hotel room. But thanks for understanding. This was my fault. It's like, what happened? Anyway, we're very grateful that you guys are listening to us every week, and we will be sure not to do this one ever again where we have to be in separate rooms. So we love you guys. Thanks for listening to the Parent Pivot Podcast.
Bye.